Imagine begging the gods to bless your child, only to realize you've sealed his tragic fate. Hector thought he was saving Troy, but Zeus was just placing bets. While a father prays, the gods are laughing, trading an infant's future for a better show. This isn't a war, it's a divine game of blood.
Forget marble statues. The ancient world was a grim spectacle, run by divine hunters who demanded human sacrifice and destroyed lives on a whim. We're peeling back the layers of their madness. This is Shroud of Lore.
Hector prays to the gods to turn his infant son into a great killer, while Zeus indifferently throws thousands of lives onto the scales of death. Commanders exchange gifts over the mangled bodies of friends, and kings barter slave girls trying to buy back the pride of wounded Achilles. Meanwhile, the vulture gods breathe in the scent of blood with delight, watching the future of great Troy perish in fire and betrayal. But the prayer had not yet been spoken. First, Hector had to see what his city had become. He walked through the Scaean gates at sunset, still wearing armor caked with Greek blood. The streets that had once bustled with merchants and children now echoed with weeping. Women clustered at doorways, asking about husbands and sons who would never return. Old men sat in corners, staring at nothing, their eyes already dead though their hearts still beat. 10 years of siege. 10 years of watching the flower of Troy fall on foreign spears. And now, with Achilles sulking in his tent and the Greeks pressing harder than ever, the end was finally visible on the horizon. Hector's mother Hecuba found him first. She clutched his arm with fingers like bird claws, her face streaked with tears. "Stay," she begged. "Rest. Let others fight tomorrow. There is no one else, mother. Father is too old. Paris is." He stopped. Paris was hiding in height in Helen's chambers, as always. "I am all Troy has." He pulled away and climbed toward his own house, where Andromache waited with their son. She met him at the door, a Styanax in her arms. The boy was barely a year old, plump and gurgling, reaching for his father's horsehair plume with tiny fingers. When Hector leaned close, the child screamed at the blood-splattered bronze and buried his face in his mother's neck. Even his own son feared him now. "Don't go back out," Andromache whispered. "Please. I've lost my father, my brothers, everyone. You are all I have left." Hector took the baby from her arms. Astyanax whimpered but did not scream this time. Up close, his eyes were bright and innocent, untouched by the war that had shaped his entire short existence. "Do you know what the Greeks will do if Troy falls?" Hector's voice was quiet. "They will throw him from the walls. They will take you as a slave. Everything we've built, everything we've loved, it will be erased as if it never existed. Then let us flee. Tonight. We can, there is nowhere to run. The only hope is to win. And to win, I must become something more than a man." He carried Astyanax to the wall overlooking the city and raised the boy toward the darkening sky. Andromache cried out, reaching for her son, but Hector held firm. "Hear me, Zeus. Hear me, all you gods of Olympus." His voice rang across the rooftops. "I offer you a bargain. Give Troy victory, and in return, I dedicate this child to war. Let him grow to be greater than his father, more ruthless, more terrible, a killer whose name will make enemies tremble for generations. Take his innocence and forge him into a weapon. I ask nothing for myself. Only let him live to defend what I cannot." The words hung in the air. Andromache wept silently. And somewhere above, Hector felt certain, the gods were listening. Astyanax laughed, a bright, bubbling sound, utterly unaware that his father had just traded his soul for the promise of blood. That night, Hector dreamed of scales. 2 golden dishes suspended in darkness, lives piled on each side like coins. Zeus sat above them, his face blank with boredom, adding and removing figures with casual indifference. Greeks, Trojans, heroes, children, all the same weight, all equally meaningless. He woke to the sound of war horns. The Greeks were attacking. Hector met Ajax at noon. The giant Greek had been carving through Trojan lines all morning, his massive shield turning aside spears like raindrops. Men fled before him. Only Hector stood firm. They fought for what felt like hours. Spear against spear, sword against sword, two titans locked in a dance that neither could win. The armies fell back to watch, both sides holding their breath as the champions clashed. Hector landed a blow that cracked Ajax's shield. Ajax answered with a strike that dented Hector's helmet. They circled, bleeding, gasping, neither willing to yield. Then heralds called for sunset. The duel ended without resolution. Ajax and Hector exchanged gifts, a sword for a belt, tokens of mutual respect, and retreated to their own lines. The watching armies cheered as if something had been accomplished. Nothing had been accomplished. Tomorrow the killing would resume, and all the courage displayed today would mean nothing. That night, Hector stood on Troy's walls and watched the Greek campfires spread across the plain like stars fallen to earth. So many. Too many. For every Greek he killed, 3 more seemed to take his place. The gods are laughing at us. He turned. Cassandra stood behind him, his sister cursed with prophecy that no one believed. Her eyes were wild, her hair tangled, but her voice was steady. I saw them today, she continued. Zeus on his throne, weighing souls like a merchant weighing grain. He doesn't care who wins. He only cares that the show continues. You're mad, Cassandra. Am I? She stepped closer. I saw your prayer, brother. I saw what you offered. And I saw the gods accept it. Hector's blood went cold. What do you mean? Astyanax. You asked them to make him a killer. They heard you. They're already preparing his fate. Cassandra's laugh was bitter. But not the fate you imagined. Not a defender of Troy. A sacrifice. The final sacrifice, to seal the city's doom. You're lying. I've never lied. That's my curse, to speak truth that no one believes. She gripped his arm. The gods don't answer prayers, Hector. They twist them. You asked for your son to be great. They will make him famous, as the last prince of Troy, thrown screaming from these very walls. Hector shoved her away. Get out. Get out. She left, her mad laughter echoing down the stairs. He did not sleep that night. He stood on the walls until dawn, watching the Greek fires, hearing Cassandra's words repeat in his mind. It couldn't be true. The gods were harsh, but they rewarded devotion. They answered prayers. They had to. The next day brought fresh horrors. The Greeks drove the Trojans back to the walls. Hector rallied his men again and again, but each rally cost more lives. By evening, the plain was carpeted with Trojan dead, and the Greeks were closer than they had been in 10 years. Agamemnon sent an embassy to Achilles, offering gifts, gold, horses, slave women, anything to bring the greatest warrior back to battle. Achilles refused. The war would continue without him, grinding both sides to dust. And above it all, Hector felt the weight of divine eyes. Watching. Waiting. Savoring every drop of blood. The embassy's failure changed everything. Without Achilles, the Greeks should have been vulnerable. Instead, they fought with desperate fury, knowing that only victory could save them from slow starvation on a foreign shore. The Trojans, sensing weakness, pressed their advantage. For 3 days, Hector led charge after charge against the Greek ships. For 3 days, he came within a spear's throw of ending the war. Each time, something stopped him, a shift in wind, an unlucky stumble, a Greek hero appearing from nowhere to block his path. On the third night, he understood why. He was resting in his tent when the vision came. Not a dream, something sharper, more real. He saw Olympus as clearly as he saw his own hands. The gods lounged on golden couches, drinking nectar, watching the war play out on a shimmering pool that showed every detail of the battlefield. They were placing bets. Ares wagered on Troy. Athena favored Greece. Aphrodite and Apollo argued over individual champions. And Zeus sat above them all, adjusting the scales, ensuring that neither side won too quickly. The longer it lasts, Zeus said, his voice echoing across eternity, the sweeter the ending. Hector saw himself on the shimmering surface, a tiny figure, fighting desperately, believing his efforts mattered. He saw Astyanax, still innocent in his mother's arms. He saw the future unfolding like a scroll, Troy burning, Andromache in chains, his son's body broken on the rocks below the walls. And he saw the thread that connected it all. His prayer. His offering. The gods had accepted his bargain, accepted it and twisted it, as Cassandra had warned. He had asked for his son to be famous. They would make him famous. The most famous victim of the war's end, the symbol of Troy's annihilation, remembered forever as the child who was thrown to his death while his mother screamed. Hector woke screaming himself. Andromache rushed to his side, but he pushed her away. He stumbled outside, into the night air, and fell to his knees in the dirt. "You heard me," he gasped at the sky. "You took my prayer and poisoned it. What kind of gods are you? What kind of justice is this?" The stars offered no answer. They never did. He had gambled with his son's soul, and the gods had collected their winnings. There was no way to take it back, no sacrifice that could undo what he had done. Astyanax was marked now, consecrated to a fate worse than anything Hector had imagined. All because a father had loved his city too much, and his son not wisely enough. The funeral pyres burned all night. Hector walked among them, counting faces he recognized. Friends since childhood. Comrades who had trusted him to lead them to victory. Now they were ash and memory, fuel for fires that painted the sky orange. 3 days of battle. 3 days of driving the Greeks back toward their ships. Tomorrow, perhaps, he would finally burn the fleet and end this war forever. But the vision still haunted him. The gods on their thrones. The twisted prayer. His son's fate, sealed by his own desperate words. Andromache found him at the edge of the firelight. "Cassandra told me what you saw," she said quietly. "About Astyanax. About the gods." Hector said nothing. "Is it true? Is our son already condemned?" He should have lied. Instead, he told the truth. "I condemned him. I thought I was saving him. I traded his future for Troy's survival. But the gods don't bargain fairly. They took my prayer and twisted it into a curse." Andromache was silent for a long moment. Then she took his hand. "Then we have nothing left to lose. And nothing left to fear." She met his eyes with iron in her gaze. "The gods want a show. They want us to despair, to rage, to give them the spectacle they crave. What if we refuse? Refuse? Fight tomorrow. Not for glory, not for the gods, not even for Troy. Fight because you choose to. Because you're a man defending his family, nothing more." Hector stared at her. You couldn't take back a prayer, couldn't undo a divine bargain. The gods held all the power. But did they? He thought of Zeus adjusting his scales, prolonging the war for entertainment. The gods fed on despair. Every curse hurled at heaven only made them stronger. What if he stopped feeding them? What if he faced whatever came not as a puppet, but as a free man making his own choice? "Wake Astyanax," he said. "I want to see him before dawn." He held his son as the sky lightened. The boy reached for his father's face with clumsy fingers. Hector did not pray. He did not bargain. He simply let himself feel love, pure and uncomplicated. "Whatever happens," he told Andromache, "know that I stopped being their puppet tonight." He kissed them both and walked to the Scaean gates. Below, the Greek ships waited. Tomorrow he would attack again. Perhaps he would burn them all and win the war. Perhaps the gods would twist fate against him once more. He did not know, and for the first time, he did not care. The gods wanted him to grovel for their favor. He would not grovel. They wanted him to despair at their games. He would not despair. They wanted him to be their creature. He would be his own. Hector watched the dawn break over the battlefield, where thousands had died for divine amusement. More would die today. Perhaps he would be among them, perhaps not. But whatever came, he would face it as a man. A father. A defender of his home. Not a piece on the gods' game board, but a human being who had remembered, at last, what that meant. The vulture gods could keep their laughter. He had found something they could never touch.